Have you ever wondered what the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary is all about? This video is a part of my 8-video series of touring Calgary. I'll virtually go through every single quadrant and share my insight with you. Hi, my name is Adam Fife and I create value-driven content to help educate you and the people you know about Calgary real estate. Please consider subscribing and browsing the channel to find other relatable topics that could help you out now or later in life. So let's get into it. East Calgary has 19 communities, which is the smallest in the city. It's still expanding and it's getting closer to getting connected with Chestermere. So here's the community map of Calgary for 2022. Now today what we're going to do is concentrate on the green section here, or Eastern Calgary. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one step further and actually outline it on Google Maps. So as we can see here, it's actually one of the smallest quadrants in all of Calgary, and it is pretty easy to trace. So what we'll do is we'll start right up here near the zoo. So Deerfoot and Memorial. And then you go all the way over, all the way down Memorial, all the way across. You kind of dip down 68th here, and then you go back up the train all the way over to Highway 1. Now, if we look at the map here, you can see that the section does go all the way out to this area here. So when we actually go, I'm going to estimate it's going to be past 100th Street, but for today's video, we'll just go to 100th Street. So then we'll shoot all the way down 100th, all the way down until you hit Glenmore Trail down here. As you can see down here, it's Glenmore Trail. So all you got to do is you shoot all the way down Glenmore Trail, and then you actually go right to Ogden Road. You shoot up Ogden Road until you hit the Deerfoot again, and then you just follow right back up Deerfoot until you hit the zoo, as you can see on this map here, just going straight up. So when we actually look at this on the map, you can see that the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary is actually quite small compared to every other quadrant. It's just this little section here. So if we zoom out, we can see that, the northeast is quite massive, the west is massive, the southwest is huge, and the southeast is huge, where Eastern Calgary is actually quite small. There's only 19 communities, but there's really only 8 or 9 that actually have houses in it. So what I'm going to do, like every other video, is I'm going to start off with some of the pros of the quadrant and end with some of the cons. Now, the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary is small, like I just mentioned, but it does have a pretty good layout. It's basically a grid, and it's very easy to memorize. The majority of the roadways are pretty straightforward and easy to access. So let's start off with the biggest pro, and that's getting the most bang for your buck. Now, the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary does have the lowest benchmark in the whole city. If you're looking to get that nicest home and maybe even the biggest home for the least amount of money, then considering the Eastern Quadrant may be a good idea for you. Its overall price point is lower and has some of the best views of downtowns with the mountains in the background. If you actually take a walk down 26th Street here, you can get some really nice views of downtown with some really nice pathways and some benches to sit and relax. Now, if you want to get an even better view, in my opinion, you would want to go closer to the Stony Trail here. Now, there are some paths and some trails around here, nothing too crazy, but there are some areas here where you can actually come and enjoy some really nice views of downtown. Now, hopefully I can overlay some photos on this video to give you a general idea of what I'm talking about. But if you're looking for that perfect shot of downtown with the mountains, coming in this area here, you'll get some really nice shots. So on top of just looking at downtown, accessing downtown as well is pretty simple. Both Memorial Drive and 17th Street do give you some pretty straightforward access to the downtown core with a pretty easy flow of traffic. Now, I do want to call out a couple of different places here, and the first one being on 17th, here it is right here. These two intersections are brutal. Now, I'm not talking about cons quite yet, but I do want to call this out because it is getting frustrating for me. Now, as much as I do think that this is a very easy access in and out of downtown, these little intersections here, it looks like there's one car here, but look at the cars already backed up on the street here. For some reason, if you want to go north or south off of 17th onto Deerfoot Trail here, these two intersections are brutal. I wish that they had a little bit of a better layout to get on and off the highway here, but a little coral for you when it comes to some of the road work. But for the most part, I mean, this Memorial Drive doesn't even matter if there's a big event going on. It is a 3-lane highway, so just getting in and out of the city is pretty easy. So if you do live in the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary, getting to downtown is pretty easy, but you could also access different areas of the city just by going to Stony Trail here, as well as the one up here, or 16th Avenue Northwest. Next, I would like to touch on the small community vibes as well. Now, I do know a few families who live there, and because the quadrant is so small, you do get a sense of community as families who participate in those activities go to the event centers and usually all know each other. Now, I'm not 100% sure about the population size here in the Eastern Quadrant, but when you look at the map, you can't really argue that it is really small compared to other communities, so getting to know your neighbors is a little easier. Now, last on my list is how the factories, or better yet, the industrial area is a workers' haven. So for the people that actually do work in this area, living so close and being able to actually travel to this industrial area straight down south from your community is a worker's dream. That, coupled with the lower price point of the homes in the area, makes for a pretty solid situation to get yourself ahead fairly quickly with upgrading sooner if you do budget yourself correctly. All right, so All those things were pretty good, but how about some of those cons? And let's remember, this is only a personal opinion. It wouldn't be a very good overview unless I shared some of the cons about the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary. If you feel like I've missed something, please do comment below, as I do want to do this year over year. Now, I will start off by saying that there is no C train in this quadrant, but the city of Calgary has invested in the BRT system, or the bus rapid transportation system. Now, this system does have dedicated lanes for the city buses, so they have the ability to get in and out of downtown fairly fast. They've even constructed a dedicated bus lane down here for buses to go over the river and go over into these two communities here without being heavily affected by the bottlenecks of 17th Ave, which is pretty fantastic. Next would have to be, while a lot of industrial workers do benefit from being very close to their area of work, you can't argue the fact that there is a lot of industrial things happening down in the Eastern Quadrant here. So that does affect the noises, the smells, and the overall view of the community. That goes without saying, a lot of the large vehicle traffic that happens around this area as well. So there are a lot of big trucks and trailers and things that are going in and out of this quadrant that can affect some of the traffic for the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary. Though it may not be a bother for some, for others it can be quite annoying and also an eyesore to look at every single day. So just like the north with the train line going up here, and the south with the train line going all the way down McLeod Trail, which I did not bring up in my Southwest review, so for those of you who have watched that, I do apologize for not bringing that up in the cons. But Calgary East does have a pretty busy train line. As you can see, all these yards right here, you can actually see that the train comes all the way up and goes directly through the Eastern Quadrant right to the outskirts of the city. So a lot of these houses right along this train line do get affected by some of the deep vibrations that are caused by the train, as well as the noise caused by the train. Now, I do have to agree, the train does go fairly slow through the community, but having it go through so close to your house can get frustrating for a lot of people. And this, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why the price point of Eastern Quadrant does stay so low. A lot of these houses do get affected by that train, and a lot of people don't really want to live that close to the train. Especially for people like myself who are very light sleepers and do get affected by some noises or things that are happening in the community that might wake you up if you leave your window open. Now, last on the list would be just how the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary is known for its lower income families. Now, I have chatted with many families over the years who have negative overview of East Calgary. Things like crime, unsafe areas, and homeless have caused people to shy away from considering this quadrant. While everyone is entitled to their own opinion and everyone has their own experiences, the Eastern Quadrant of Calgary, and Calgary as a whole, is a lot safer than some places in Canada and a lot of major cities in the United States. Just because prices are lower in this specific area doesn't mean that it's a bad area and not suitable for raising kids. I've actually attached a link in the description below to a heat map of crime in different communities across Calgary. I have met some amazing communities and organized people who are not only making a difference in the quadrant itself, but for the city as a whole. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting people, because what you focus on expands. If you focus on the negatives of an area or a negative situation, you will continue to notice more and more of those things happening. If you focus on the good of an area or even get involved in the solution, your mindset may just change about the people around you in the area that you live in. So that's it, folks. That's my overview of Eastern Quadrant of Calgary. If I did miss anything, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comments down below, as I do want to continue to do this year over year. Now, don't forget to check out my channel, as I do create other forms of informative content that will teach you all about Calgary real estate. That's my quick overview, so until next time, peace.